Hi, my name is Emily, and I am first going to be talking about the book Cat in the Hat by Dr. Seuss. Um, I think that this book has a very fun and cheery tone. Um, I also think Dr. Seuss does a wonderful job of depicting the fish in uh, as a authoritative figure, just based off of um, once the Cat in the Hat comes in and tries to turn the house entirely upside down, the fish is like, no, if your mom was home, like, a lot of bad things are gonna happen, and he's almost like this voice of reason throughout the entire book, as Cat in the Hat and Think One and Think Two are just trying to play around and mess around and genuinely have fun, but um, there's just some things we don't do in the house and also even outside the house as well. I think that Cat in the Hat kind of may serve as like a maybe older sibling that shouldn't be doing what they're supposed to, and then even Think One and Think Two as younger siblings that aren't supposed to be doing what they're supposed to. And then I feel like the author kind of shows um, the author illustrator kind of shows like Sally and the narrator just kind of watching like all this happen throughout this entire book until like they both Sally and the narrator are like catching them Think One and Think Two with the net. Um, but I think it's a good message because it shows that it shows kids like, hey, it's great to have fun sometimes, but like, there's certain things that you just don't do logically, and I think they do a really good job. He does a really good job with that. The next book I'm going to be talking about is the book Caps for Sale. Um, the illustrations were out in the country and also like in a small town kind of thing. Um, I think it was a very calm and the tone of the book was very calm, and it showed that in the illustration. Um, I think the illustrator did a wonderful job of showing once he was mad at the monkeys in the book, he was like facing at them, and the illustrator was showing like the back of the peddler, so it was kind of like looking up like this and then just like being mad. Like you could tell from the back of the peddler, like he was mad at the monkeys, like, oh, give me my hats back. And he had both of his fists up at one point. He was like stomping with his leg up at another point, and the author does a really good job of depicting, like, yes, the peddler is mad that the monkeys took his hats. Another thing I wanted to mention was the peddler uses personification through the hats about like having the hats having feelings. One thing mentioned is in the book is I think I'll go for a walk in the country, said he, and he walked out of town slowly, so as not to upset his caps. So the author of Caps for Sale, had shown personification because hats don't have feelings, and yeah, I think he does a wonderful job at through illustrations showing that, and yeah, he does a really good job. The next book I'm going to be talking about is Goodnight Moon, which is definitely one of my favorites from growing up. The rabbit is in bed and describes the setting of just this little room and all the things in it, and it's very detailed. The tone is is a lot more darker. I think this is definitely like a storybook. Is that what it's called? Picture storybook type from chapter 7, because this is definitely something you'd be read to bed, just because based off of the tone and like the darker colors altogether of the book. The narrator starts to directly say like goodnight to each thing, and as you flip the pages and the author, the narrator is directly saying goodnight to each of these things. It's the page is white on top of, it's black and white, but the background is white, and then the thing the narrator is saying goodnight to is black and white, is instead of before it being very colorful and like the darker tones of a very detailed room. And I think that it goes back and forth between the black and white directed thing it's saying goodnight to, and then showing it in the room is to kind of tire your eyes out almost, and to allow the reader to end up falling asleep after that. It ends with a shaded room illustrating that the narrator is asleep, and basically the author is showing you like, you should probably go to sleep after this, or saying goodnight. So based off the categories of the book, I think the book The Little House best fits with picture storybooks, because just based off of like all of the other categories I've read, the text and the illustration both tell the story. It's not just the illustrations themselves. It's not just and it's not accounting or ABC. And sorry, that was my chair, I promise you. And it's not a graphic novel. Just it doesn't fit the rest of the other categories, and it's just very simple, and it has a resolution at the end of it. And yeah. Freight Train, I was having a really hard time with figuring out the tone to this book. I like, just because it was very simple, very beginner picture storybook. Sorry, I'm kind of referring back to my book behind me. It's kind of referring back to more of like a beginning picture storybook, but it's also showing, to answer this question, the tone of this book is more like calm and pleasing to the eye. It's very comfortable. It's not like very cheery or happy, but it's also not like very gloomy and sad. It's just like, oh, like these are the cars, this is the train, like these are the colors with it. This is the train doing this is the train doing that, and then it's gone. So I think it's really fun. It's a very like fun book. It's not very it's not very direct in a certain emotion. It's just like, it is what it is kind of book. But yeah. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you around class.